All right, hello everyone, Colton here with Hot Shot Off-Road. Just picked up a brand new 2021 Tundra Crew Max Limited pickup. If you're familiar with those, there is chrome all over the place. I certainly subscribe to no chrome anywhere on any of my trucks. So first things first, we're gonna take the chrome handles, swap them out to a color matched. I do have the keyless entry system on here, so getting them swapped over is a little more involved on the front doors. I'll walk you guys through that entire process here. I've had quite a few people ask me about it. You can do it in about 45 minutes with some hand tools you probably have. So let's start with the tools and I'll show you how it's done. So for tools that you're going to need for this, it's actually relatively simple and it's likely stuff that you probably do have at home. So first things first is going to be your door handle here. I sourced these from Sparks Parts. They were painted when they showed up at my door. This one is going to be the one that has the electrical connection. So these are going to be the front driver's and passenger side handle, and then of course the end cap that goes along with them. The driver's side is going to have a cutout for the key. This is the passenger side one right here. Some packaging tape. I'm going to use it to repair the interior liner we'll have to cut into to be able to get to this electrical connection on the door. You can certainly use a different method to seal this up, but how I'm going to enter that, I'm going to use some tape here to seal that location back up. A few screwdrivers here. So I got a Phillips here. I've got a couple varying sizes of flat screwdrivers here, and then I have a small pick. The small pick and then the needle nose pliers here are probably not absolutely necessary for the install, but I like to use them to help disengage some of the electrical connections from time to time. Have a sheetrock knife here that has a nice fresh blade on it. This is a Torx bit T30 in size. And then probably the most important piece of all of this, I do have a trim removal set. This one I found on Amazon a handful of years ago for probably $10 or $15. I've had it for a while and it served me very well. I would say this is probably a very critical piece to get everything off. You can technically get door panels and whatnot off with a screwdriver, but I strongly recommend something like this or something plastic or something protected in order to keep from damaging any sort of painted or plastic surfaces. I've got here a pad that I'll kneel on when I'm actually working inside the door panel area just to protect my knees. And then I have another pad similar to this laid out that I'm going to take when the interior door panel comes off, that I'll set it on just to protect that panel from any sort of scratches so that I'm not setting it on the ground. So quick look at everything you're going to need, relatively simple, and let's get started. All right, so in order to get to the electrical components behind here to get this handle swapped out properly, you're going to need to get this door panel off. In no particular order, the major pieces that we're going to have to do is take care of this panel piece right here. There's a push pin right here. There will be a Phillips head screw immediately beneath here, a Phillips head screw down in here. This window control unit's going to have to be taken off, and then that T30 Torx is going to be hidden behind this. I'll do close-ups of all these, but just roughly there's just a handful of steps to get this piece off. So the first piece here is going to be this top protection triangle shaped piece that protects the tweeter if you have one. In order to get this off, of course, a trim removal tool, I recommend starting from the top. So there's going to be a push pin here, a clip here, and then there's actually just another pin in here. But if you get this first one off here, you can more or less pull this whole piece out. So get underneath here, and then I will just keep working down. This top has come off. All right, so all three of those pieces are off, and then you're going to want to disconnect this electrical connection from your tweeter if you have one. The next little piece is going to be this push pin here. You need to just depress the center, and then the rest will kind of pop out a little bit, and then we can just lift that pin up. So I'll go just right here. Pin goes in. Moving down, we've gotten these two pieces removed. Now we got to go to here. There's going to be a Phillips screw immediately under here. So we just have to get this plastic panel off. It lifts off. It actually is probably the most difficult piece to get off. It just doesn't seem like it's going to come. So I'll take a angled trim piece, and I'll go just under here and just kind of lift up on it. Okay. And then as you can see, I had to lift this handle up just to clear that to come out. So it just pulls out, but it does press in at 4 different points on the way in. And then there is this Phillips screw that needs to get removed. Okay, and looking inside here, you can see that lime green color. You're gonna need to remember that lime green color whenever you go to put the door panel back onto the pickup. So next up is going to be the window controls, the up and down, and then of course the locking mechanism. I prefer to start from the front to the back. The back tends to kind of get hung up, but if you start right up here and continue to move it all the way back, you can just lift that whole unit up. So I'll start here again with the trim tool kit and go just under here and just get it started, and just keep finding there is a little silver lip, so just have to keep working it around here. So once I get this whole section up, I'll come back here to the front because there's also clips holding it close to the door panel here, and just keep lifting, and eventually she'll come free here. Maybe. There we go. All right. Okay, so the next piece here is there's going to be a Phillips head screw underneath here. So this is just felt that does lift out. I don't know the perfect way to get it. I found the needle nose pliers to be the easiest way. I would just reach in and grab on to that guy. And then there's one Phillips head right there that needs to be removed completely. And again, you can see down there is that lime green color. You'll need to remember that when it comes to alignment of this door panel again. And the last piece of the puzzle here is this little rubber stopper on the side of the door. Get underneath there with just another removal tool and lift that little tab up. And then underneath there, if you can see it, that is where the T30 Torx bit is. Unscrew that as far as it'll go. That actually holds the end cap on the outside of the door handle to it, and there are keepers in there, so you don't have to worry about that piece falling down into the door. So you can take and back this screw out, and it'll get to the point where it's just freewheeling and just spinning. So getting this door panel off, now that we've removed all those pieces, is actually relatively simple. So there's going to be push pins around the whole perimeter of the door, and they make a U. So there is nothing on top to push, or I guess rather pull out. Everything just pulls from the bottom, and then the door panel is more or less going to lift kind of out and up, and that'll free everything here. So I like to start in this corner here closest to the vehicle. There's 2 clips that go up here. Once I get this whole section kind of free, I'll work my way around the bottom and then up to here, and then I'll be able to pull that whole door panel off. So at this point, all of the push pins, or at least I believe all the push pins, are clear. So I'll take this door panel and I'll rotate it a little bit towards me from the bottom, and then I'll just be able to lift it up and out of the way here. So once you've gotten and taken the door trim away from the door itself, you're gonna have still the connecting cables from the exterior handle still connected to the interior handle here. So just remember, white on top, green on bottom. These, they lift up and out of the way. So you'll lift this piece up and this piece up directly out of the carriage they kind of sit in here. And then you'll see, I can turn it towards you a little bit, you'll see that they're able to pivot into a slot here that they can go into and out of, then that way they don't fall out whenever the vehicle is put back together. So white on top, green on bottom, you move those out of the way and then take the door panel out of the way. So behind here was the plastic sheath that I had kind of mentioned is Protecting from exterior elements, you can see there's actually a little bit of moisture here. I ran this truck through the car wash actually earlier today, so it clearly does protect from some moisture from the exterior here. I guess you could take and remove this silicone lining they have all the way around. What I'm doing, and why I referenced that I did have the packaging tape, is that I'm going to more or less cut myself an entry hole to the connections or to that exterior handle from here. And then what I'll do is I will reseal that location up with the tape. It won't look OEM by any means, but as long as it keeps the moisture out, it will do its job. You can cut as big of a hole here as you'd like. I recommend keeping this slit here for the OEM connections for the door handles in place, so I wouldn't cut from here. That keeps the proper amount of pressure on there for those cables. So I'll cut a door here just a little bit bigger than the size of my hand, so I'm able to get in there and manipulate the cables and disconnect everything from this side, and in that way I can feed that connector back through to the exterior. Taking a look inside here, you'll be able to see the cable or the connection, which is where the exterior handle connects to the rest of the vehicle. And then you will also see the wiring. I would say take a look at how that wiring is routed. You can see it goes down and around in a very particular fashion. You're going to want to replicate that when you put that new handle back in. Using the small flat blade screwdriver, I'm going to take and push this little connector down so that I can free this connection there. And now, if I unwind these cables, I can have and bring this connection out to me and have it a little more able to work. Now that you've gotten the door panel off, you've gotten that connection off, and you've also not forgotten to loosen this T30 Torx head, you have pretty much done all of the hard work. So the rest is going to be to do the swap and to put everything back together. So this is held in by that T30 Torx, and this really isn't held in by anything other than this being in the way, and we had that electrical connection in the back. Use one of your trim removal pieces again and just work around this square piece just to lift it up, and it'll come straight out. And it doesn't require a ton of pressure. So what happened here is I don't think I loosened this Torx far enough. So I'm gonna take and loosen it a little bit while I'm manipulating this end to see if I can get it to free up here. There we go. And last but not least is going to be the main part of the handle itself. This, all you have to do is pull that handle straight towards you, and then it's actually just going to rotate out. So grab the handle and pull it straight towards the end of the door here, and it'll kind of pop free. You bring out the left hand side of it, I guess if you're on the passenger side door here, and then you just rotate that unit out. Don't forget, if you are on a vehicle equipped with the smart key system, you're going to have a connection that also has to come out with that. On the existing handle, there's going to be some OEM lube that's on here that helps that handle travel. The new replacement ones do not come with any of that, so they're just bare plastic. If you have any grease around, you can certainly take and put fresh grease on here. I'm going to end up replacing, or I guess reusing, the grease that's on here, so I'll just by hand move as much grease from the existing handle to the new one that I'm going to put in to allow it to travel smoothly, not make any noise, and not bind up anytime when I'm opening and closing the door here. The reinstallation goes effectively just everything in reverse at this point. So make sure to feed this connector back into here. You're going to take and put this end in, and then you'll roll this end over, push it down, and then push everything in that way. So I'll feed the connector here and get this guy in there. Okay, so once I have that in there, roll this over till everything kind of sits down and seats up against the pickup, and then I'll take and put pressure in and forward to get the handle to seat back into here. So the sink cap more or less just pushes on Here was that hole that gave me trouble on the last one that T30 Torx bit does go into. So this just pushes straight onto here. Here's that new cable. We're gonna try to make sure that we route it the same way that OEM wiring was kind of weaved back down in there. And then we're gonna hook this back up and make sure everything works. Double check that I have everything routed underneath properly. So everything seems to be working properly, so I will put everything back together here. So here was that section that I talked about that I'm going to use packing tape here to repair. It's, like I said, more or less just a moisture barrier. It's not keeping out any sort of force. So I'll do the best I can. It's certainly not going to look OEM, but we'll try to keep it together and keep the elements out. Like I said, not pretty, but as long as it keeps the moisture on this side, we'll be happy. Now we're putting the door panel back on. I'll be perfectly honest, I certainly recommend doing this with 2 people. But it can be done with 1. So again, reminder, white on top, green on bottom. So you're gonna wanna take, and we can do it here just so you can see it. So you've got the ball goes into the channel and then rotates around. And then we're gonna do that for both the white and the green. And then what you'll do is there's a couple little channels here, and I'll push this green one in first and then I'll show you closer on the white. So it requires a little bit of force, but it's got to go all the way down into that channel. And there's another channel here for the white one. So it'll go here and into that channel. Okay, and then reinstallation of the door panel itself. There's a little lip you can see here that rests right over the top of the metal lip of the door. So you're gonna kind of want to take the door and go up and over and then kind of fold it down to get it to fit. So we'll take here and go up and over and kind of try to push in and catch that edge. There we go. And an easy way to tell is if you can see the track of the weather stripping for the window holding tight, you know you're close enough. And down, and it'll more or less lock itself into place once it gets there. And what it'll do for you as well is it will largely line up the push pins across the entire length of the door. You get this down, make sure you don't have any binding, so make sure your electrical connections for both your window controls and your tweeter are all free, and then you can start pushing in the trim of the door to get it back together. Remember I talked about the lime green tabs? Make sure that once you get the door pushed back in, you'll know you're lined up if you can see those lime green holes in the Phillips screwdriver locations on both of those. So this one clearly still has to go in more, and we'll kind of establish that as we push the door around here. The reinstallation of this door panel is going to be exactly in reverse of how you put it in. So I'll start here with the edge of the door. So you've got that Torx. And if you wanted, when you put the end cap on in the first place, you could have completed this step. I waited just so I could show everything in reverse. Screw this all the way in. And tight is tight. You don't have to get it super tight. You don't want to reef on it. Put your cap back on. Again, not too tight. Once it's snug, it's good enough. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, I'm Colton with Hot Shot Off-Road. If you enjoyed that, please let us know if there's something we can do to make it better. We will certainly take any of that feedback as well. I hope that helps somebody. I know a lot of people are looking to do that mod. I know it's not cheap. I know it's not super easy, but it can be done in not a whole ton of time with just some hand tools. And I think it makes a good upgrade as far as aesthetics go to that vehicle. I have not given up on the lighting comparison stuff. I have a lot more of that planned, and now that it's finally rolled into summertime here in Montana, I have a little bit of opportunity to be out and about at night and out for longer hours without needing to come in from time to time. If you need any equipment for your vehicle, of course, you can always find that at hotshotoffroad.com. If there's anything that you don't see there that you think we might offer, please reach out to us. We certainly, want to help you out if we can. And I will be documenting this build on this Tundra fully over on Instagram, so please make sure to follow us there. Again, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the support and the help. Take care.